Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Friday, April the 5th. This will be our chart lesson for today. Really great trading day. Um, there was a classic setup right here off the trend line that, could have made you a nice min on this single trade alone. Um, Several more. Then we kind of went to this trading range. Uh, but there were two real clear channels. You had a clear channel going down and a real clear channel going up. And once you had this channel going up, these were all gimmies right up through here. And most of them took off really quickly, really easy trades. Um, you just have to kind of learn to trust them. So that's really all you can say about these trades is that you got to find these trend lines, and the trend lines are fairly easy to find in both these cases. This one might have been a little bit more difficult, but you still had the EMA here to work with, and I'll explain it. That was the first trade I saw right after I got to the office this morning. Did I know it was going to take off like this? No, but you got to be thinking, after a leg down pretty much like that right there, that you're going to get a similar leg. And guess what? Basically almost to the tick. There was your target right there. It doesn't get any easier than that. And then let me show you the one on the way up. You get this first leg right here. So then you get this big correction. The minimum you're going to expect this line to go to is a measured move. And guess where we're finding resistance right now? Right there, you got an overnight, the close from yesterday way up here where this line is. So, but there's only about maybe 20 minutes left in the trading day. The way this thing has been going back, they basically took back the whole sell-off. They've almost taken back every bit of it from the overnight, and that's a pretty huge sell-off right there. So, really good chance to make some money today. You just have to trust the rules, and there's multiple reasons. We had this. Let me show you this. Once you went into this range right here, you had to be thinking that this range would probably give you another target equal to that. And look at there. There it is. That's exactly where we found resistance again. And but this support is stronger than that resistance, and it broke through. And once it get up through here, it's probably hitting stops all the way. A lot of people probably try to get short in here. Notice this little gap. Let me make this a little bigger right here. Notice that little gap. People say they can't see that. Hopefully you can see that's a perfect example of one bar closed, the other one opened. Look where this first move, let me just put a line on there where you can see it. Look where that first move went to. It filled that gap, and then it sold off like crazy again, back down to test the previous resistance, and now it acted as support. That was as good as it gets, and you got two great reversal bars right there. This trade, you really couldn't ignore this one either. It's not as good a setup, and you might have got tricked right in here. So that's a possibility, but it's a pretty good setup, and you couldn't hardly ignore it. So the only thing I don't like is there's a lot of overlap right there. That's about the only thing that might have kept you out of that trade. I took this trade, so I didn't put it in green, and I can understand why anybody would have taken it. But we'll talk about that when we get there. Let's start over here on the left-hand side where the first trade I saw this morning. Great setup right off a suspected trend line. A nice two-legged pullback to the EMA. So that's a second entry short right there. You go short right below this bar. Doesn't get much better than that. Of course, you don't know it's going to go down like this. I really thought at first there was a good chance this line was right here. And you can see that. And so I was just looking for price. And you can see it gap through that line right there. So this line had some, it had some merit. But then you got to figure if it's not going to, bounce right there, it's going to the next one. So you move it down, try the next one. And guess what? That's where you found support again, but I believe that to be the bigger channel. Um, but yeah, when I first entered this, I was just expecting it to, maybe go right in here and chop around across and come down some more. So this was just a nice bonus just to rock it down like that. And that's about as easy as it gets. Um, so the next trade, uh, I marked this one in green because we weren't quite back to the trend line, but notice it's a second entry short. It's right off the EMA. There's a double top. We kind of had a double top here already. We broke above it, right up there where the last stems were. And you can see that right there. There's your closes, and there's your closes. And you got a one tick higher, and then this bar turns down. This was worth taking. After a move that strong, it's going to take it a few tries to get through the EMA, and you see it got a little bit through there, a little more, then a little more, and then finally a little bit higher, and then it finally got on the other side, and then it's been, trending up all the rest of the day since then. So, so I drew this one in green, but that's a double top. It's a failed second entry long that turns into a second entry short, so it's a trap. You got that one little tick above the previous closes. Just it sets up nicely, and you got to figure it's probably worth the scalp. Uh, but it goes down and makes a new low, and then you get another chance to enter right here, another second entry short, right at the trend line. Um, Nice little bearish bar right there. You go short below it, and boom, it rockets down to test the lows again. And then we finally get a break. And this one, you might have gone short right here. I meant to put that one in green. So that you might have considered going short right there. But we had a trend line break and a move to a new low, close enough for a retest anyway. And then this was really bullish coming out of here. So you probably want to wait on a second entry. And you got what looked like a second entry right there. So, but by that time, it's no doubt that's congestion. And we're not quite back up here to where the previous highs were. So I was looking for prices to come further up here. And then we broke above this little double top. Your line should have been here at that point. And it's a second entry short on a bigger picture that makes more sense. And so there's a nice short, and there really was even another chance to go short here, but it's getting risky going short. You're not really sure. You really need another bounce down here to really know if this is going to be a trading range or not. But by that time, then you got a trading range, and it's pretty obvious. So this was a really good short right here. And notice it's off this new low. It's a second entry short. On a bigger picture, you got this move up first entry, move up second entry, and even on this chart, plus notice here's something else to notice too. You got that little trend line moving up through there, and you could have drawn it there, but you really didn't get a break drawing it like that. But even if you drew it off those closes like that right there, you still get a break and then a move to a new high. So that was another reason I liked that one. But the biggest thing is this resistance right here. You had to trust that resistance. So that was a fairly easy trade. And then when we got this bounce and this big reversal bar, anytime you see that, you got to trust that almost. And easy scalp. It broke below this bar first, and so I went long right there when it broke above. Easy scalp, pulls back, makes another higher low. Notice how the closes are higher. Chance to get long again. And you got to figure we're going to this side, and where does it go? Straight to the other side. And then you get a little failed break higher again. This one took a few minutes to work on down a little bit further. I really thought we'd probably come back down again. I really thought we were going to go lower today. But you got to consider that gap up there, and you got to consider all this move that we didn't test. And so when you had two measured legs back and then this little trap, notice that we made a low, then we made another little low, and then we tried it even a third time. So when we broke above that, there's plenty of room to get out before you get those highs, but that just went right on through, pulls back, tests that area, and just keeps on going. And of course, if you drew your trend line here and you drag it up, at first I thought maybe it was there, but I believe that's it right there. But now my line's not matching. That's the second time lately that for some reason my lines don't match. Let's redraw that line. And if you draw it back over here, you still kind of get the same thing, but that does look different. So maybe I did have it right. Maybe it is that right there. There it is, I guess. So, okay. But anyway, um, I don't know how I got off there. Okay, I'm sorry. I had an interruption there. Probably just seems like a blink to you guys, but got interrupted for quite a bit of time there, unfortunately. So I can't even remember what we were talking about. I think we stopped off on this trade right here, then the two-legged pullback with the little trap right there. So a great place to go long. There's plenty of room to get out. And then, of course, we got the channel. That's where I think we left off. I was fixing my line there. And you can kind of see that channel working up through there, and we overshot it. We overshot it here, and we were corrected, and now we overshot it here. And so nice channel working up here. And every one of these bounces off this channel, you just can't hardly ignore them. We had this trade right here, which I did want to talk about. I went long right here, and let me explain to you what I did here. I think I lost a tick or two on this, and what I did was I normally give it 2 ticks below the signal bar, which would be that bar. This was actually your signal bar that you wanted to go long above, but this is where you'd have to put your stop. And normally I do 2 ticks, but I wasn't sure if I had this trend line. This was kind of the final confirmation that I had it right. I wasn't sure if maybe it was coming off the lows like that, and you can see that, some people were looking at it that way, but I believe it was off these closes across here because that's where it came into play all the way up through here. Um, but at the time I wasn't sure if it was here. So, and even then I wasn't sure if maybe it wasn't up there like that right there and we'd had a break, but you still figure you're going to get a retest. So I still liked it long, but I was afraid I was early. So when we made this doji and we broke here and we chopped around right in there, I exited and I think I either hit break even or I lost a tick. I can't remember exactly which. I didn't even go check it. I think maybe I got out at break even, but at the worst I lost a tick there. And it did continue to go lower, and I thought I was going to get a chance to go long again right here, but then I was a little bit afraid of it because of that. But that's the way some of these setups will be when you're off these trend lines. But when we came down here and we got that trap, you can see we had this double bottom right here. And a lot of times you will test this area twice here. And notice we tested it twice, and then we came back again, and it gave you a second chance to get in. But that big reversal bar right there, you just can't hardly ignore that. So what I did was just use the limit order, and I was tempted to bring it back down here, but I was afraid that if this was the trend line here, that we wouldn't get back below it. And you see it did come back here and give you a chance to get in, but by that time I'd already scalped out of this trade, and it came back, and I just added a new trade right here, and then boom, off it goes. And these are great setups. All of these reversal bars are great setups. And here's another one, same thing. It comes right back to the trend line. It gives you a chance to get in. Look at that little reversal bar. It takes it a second there, and then boom, off it goes. And then here's another chance to get in. And notice each time right here, we tried to go low twice and we tried to go lower twice. There's not really a good setup here though. This one was really tempting, but with this resistance up here, there's not enough room. So you're kind of getting this V shape, But when we made that double bottom there, we tried to go short twice. Then you had to really consider that one. And I was done trading. I marked this one after the fact coming back because it's just a great setup. Even if you'd entered here, you notice this one didn't trigger really though. You could have said, well, I'm going long over that one on that second entry, but it just didn't set up very nicely. And you've got this double top with a failed break now. So you got to be careful. You want to make sure you get a trap or something. And finally, you got this failed second entry short here. You really had a failed trap here, but you never got a trigger because you don't want to go long above that bar. Um, if you do, you got to drop it back in here, and either way, you end up with the same thing. So, and your stop. Normally, what I do is 2 ticks below because here's a perfect example where it ticks 1 tick lower and it hits all those stops, stops everybody out, and then heads out. And the good thing was that off of this trade you had runners. This trade you had runners all the way up. This trade you had runners all the way up. Then here, here, and here, runners all the way up. And so that's where you make your big money. And then coming down, runners all the way down. So, okay, phone's ringing off the hook around here today. Everybody needs me today. But really great trading day. And guess what? There were runners here. This one trade right here made me a really nice profit today. All of these were easy scaps, really. Um, and this is when I swung over to the long side when we came off of this right here and went out of this range. Then you got to be expecting to go, a measured move, and that's where we found resistance. But you can see that we're finding resistance off this line all the way up through here. And you didn't have to have it exactly. I mean, you could have drawn it just like that, and I think that's actually probably more like it right there. Let's get a copy of that one and drag it up top and just see what that looks like. Yeah, you can see, and that looks pretty doggone good to me. You got the overshoot there and the overshoot there, and you can see where that line's coming into play on both sides all the way down. So that looks like the channel to me after the fact. But sometimes, you just have to get it close in the beginning, and a lot of times you find it off. It really, if I'd have just drawn it off those first couple of swings right there and drug it down, then you've got it for sure. Um, but you might have even considered that to be it. But generally, it's going to be your high swing after your swings off your low. So generally, it's going to be this swing right here that you work off of, and you can see that's pretty much it. And it's playing off both sides of that line all the way down. And so a nice channel there. Guess what? A nice 45 degree. This one was really steep, so not quite much steeper than 45 degrees. And you see it couldn't last, but it was pretty strong where it was. It was 2 measured legs down, and then we're off. And the market's closed now. Let's see what if we ended up getting two measured legs back up. There's leg 1. And there's leg 2, and if you considered it started there, that's pretty close. I mean, that's close enough. We got, that gets you to the upper side of the channel, and then we overshot it a little bit, but that's not uncommon. They were trying to fill that gap, and they were probably hitting stops all up through here too, as we were heading higher, trying to fill that overnight gap, which is, see, we didn't quite fill it. So, but it was a really good trading day. I hope you had a good trading day, and if you got fooled, it's probably in here. And once you go into a range, there's trades in the middle, but you're better off to stick to the high side, the shorting the highs and buying the lows. And but once you get this channel going up and this, everything's trading up, then you got to find the trend line in the channel on the other side. So pretty good trading day. Hope you had a good trading day. Hope you had a good trading week. Yesterday was the really tough day. Today was like a walk, cakewalk compared to that, except for maybe where the reversal was going on here. And even if you just sat this one out, you had to wait. Let's just see how long. You had to be patient. Let's say from 8:30. Of course, that's right after the open. until it was pretty obvious. Well, if nothing else, right in here was pretty obvious. So a couple hours you had to just sit patiently till you could figure this thing out. So, but you should have been seeing these higher lows here each time and higher highs, and that's a good sign that we're headed at least back up to this upside. And every time you get up there with the bias being down so hard, that's why it's sold off again so hard, because everybody was thinking lower again. But there was just a lot of buying going on from this point. Really, it started down here on this support area at 1534. That's pretty strong support. And the buyers got stronger and stronger across here until you made this. And this is just a two-legged pullback to test this breakout area. Let me show you that right there. See that? And that's all that is. And you can see the stems on both sides of that line. Let me get that out of the way. That's obvious what that is. Great place to buy. You don't know that it's going to shoot all the way up like that, but you know it's probably going back to test these highs. And that's exactly, it found a little bit of resistance there, but then it gets through it, works back and tests it to the tick right there, and then keeps going higher. And then we found resistance across the top side of the right here. And then we come back and test the other side again and find support, and there we go. Until we get to the upper side, then we find resistance again. And I mean, it's just, it looks real easy after the fact. And if you can find the lines, which, it is much easier. And sometimes it's clear and sometimes it's not. And it wasn't really clear until we kind of got this going on right in here. But again, when we broke above the strong resistance, now look at it. It comes back and it keeps testing its support. And they got that trap there, and then a higher low. That's what you want to see, and off it goes. So really good trading day. Really, pretty good week, with the exception of yesterday was tough. I mean, even for me, yesterday was tough. So if you had a tough day yesterday, don't feel bad. You weren't the only one. It was just a hard trading day, and I sat there and watched it a lot, not knowing what was going on. So I just didn't take as many trades as usual, and but today, I mean, you can see there was any number of trades you could have taken and been an easy day. Um, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you have a good weekend. We got some really nice spring weather here for the first time in a while. It's not raining, not a cloud in the sky. It's about 65 degrees outside. So it's supposed to be like this all weekend. So I'm going to go enjoy the weekend. I hope you do the same. And we'll be back to do this again on Monday. But this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next week.